That's what I'm talking about, son. Get you some of that daggone pie.
Woo-hoo! Looky there. There's your bug-eyed big one right there.
Getting started. We're getting started.
Here's what I'm talking about. Gosh dang gorilla.
Let's go, baby. Straight meat. God, look at that biggin'.
All right, everybody, welcome into the show. This is the Bam Pod, and I'm your host, Big Ed. And on the line tonight, I've gone out and I've got a gentleman that has been fishing as a co-angler for a lot of years, and he's been doing this thing. And we're talking about it. You may have read in the front end here that we're talking about being a pro co and moving your way on to being a pro angler, being at the front of the boat. But we're going to talk to Mr. Dante Ray tonight, and we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to be out there and how to become the best co you can be and turn that into being a pro. So Dante, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate the opportunity.
No, man, this is great. We come on, we've been talking now, everybody, we will be honest to, here. I'm always honest on this show, but we've been talking for an hour before this show even started. And I'm like, eventually I just said, you know what, we really got to get some of this on tape. We got to talk about some of this stuff and let people hear about it. Dante is one of those guys that, you come off the water and, I'm up on the stage and I'm talking to a lot of the anglers out there all the time. I've always got somebody's ear. I'm always talking to them. And you hear good, bad, different things about co's and pros and all this stuff. And I will say one thing right here, right now. I have yet to hear one single angler out there say a single bad word about Dante. When they draw him, they know that they're getting a professional angler. They know that they're going to get somebody in the back of the boat that's going to do right by them and is going to be treating it right and being on the the good side of being that co-angler and what it actually means. And you know what? I decided this was a great time to kind of talk about. There's been people asking me, should I come in as should I come in as a co? Should I come in and fish? Do you think I should do that? And I will tell everybody, it's like, I believe you should always come in as a co. Check out what you're going to do before you just jump in. See what you can learn some things. And that's why I wanted to bring Dante on here because, his aspiration of becoming a pro, it's a reality now. And, with the Super 60 coming up. So Dante, I'm going to ask that question right off the bat. You've been a co-angler for a while now. Is it something that you totally inspire to become a pro angler on the front of the boat, running your own boat, making your own decisions? Is that where you want to go?
Absolutely. just starting the co-angler journey, shall I say?
Yeah.
That was one of my goals, one of my many goals that I set for myself. And I've been blessed, and I can say that I've accomplished most of the goals that I've set. And I think that may be the toughest goal to obtain for me, and it has been. But I've enjoyed the journey and using the co-angler platform to actually get me ready to make it to that goal, and not just make it, but to be somewhat successful when I get there. So that's why I really started the journey of a co-angler. I just know that there's a lot to learn, and it's one of the best templates to be up close and personal to the guys that are doing it and living it, and being able to see those examples with not the financial burden of being a pro and taking those lumps and maybe not surviving and having longevity in the game. So I really love co-angler format for a lot of different reasons, and that's just one of the many.
Well, we talked about earlier. I've been talking to Dante now for like 2 days, 3 days about, coming on the show, doing the show. And he's, he said a lot of things over those course of those couple of days. And one of the things that I really found interesting was you had said, I'm learning how to react to situations when they come up, problems when they arise, and how different anglers approach that and how they take on, how they address a situation. We've all been out there. Mechanical stuff you can't control all the time. The motor pops, or a trolling motor doesn't come on, or those kind of things. Being a co-angler, you're learning that way and now you just said that, you're learning all these different things. Now, it's not all about learning just the fishing side of it, which we'll get into in the show, but it's about learning how to deal in the right way. Have you been in situations and seen that, where you've talked, where you've had that happen, something mechanical happens and you have to learn how to control that? And do you feel like it's made you more prepared for the next step?
Yes. So one of my most memorable situation here, I drew Chris Zaldane in the U.S. Open.
Okay.
And we're coming across the middle basin and we're getting it. And it's calm conditions, nothing to hit. And then all of a sudden the outboard started to just do this real bad shimmy. I've never experienced this before, so I have no idea what's going on. And it's shimmying, man, and he's like, uh-oh. So he pulls over and we limp all the way to the bank. So me inside, I am not familiar with Lake Mead, and I'm like, oh my gosh, are we stranded? Like, I'm thinking the worst here, man. No reception. And Chris is just calm. And we idle about a mile and we get to the bank and he reverses the boat around and puts the power poles down. And then he takes his shoes off and he jumps in. And this was really a really cool learning experience for me. It showed me how prepared these guys on the next level are for everything. So he pulls out a prop. He had me hold tools. I held both. It was a total team deal here. And he changed the prop. We had thrown an ear, just to go back on that. An ear, nothing. And, just an ear was thrown. And he changed the prop and went out there and did his job. I mean, we were only there for maybe 5 minutes tops. And that was forgotten about. And that was a really cool learning lesson in a lot of different ways for me as a co-angler. Number one, it showed me, you need to be prepared for even the unexpected. And that doesn't mean know how to address it, but have the proper tools to deal with these things when they arise. And also the calmness. This situation never took him out the game mentally, which was another learning thing for me. So that situation is really memorable for me because it was cool to see how that was handled. And I knew how I would have handled it had that been my first pro event. And never having that experience, I would have lost fish time. I probably would have overreacted. And, with him having that experience of possibly doing this before, he knew exactly what happened. So he was able to troubleshoot it immediately. So now with me having an experience with him, if that ever happened to me, it'll be an immediate troubleshoot done back on the water because of that experience that I had as a co.
Yeah, and that's saying that the being preparedness, watching your anglers and how they do it. I've seen, we've all seen the Mike Iaconellis out there, losing it when something goes bad and that sort of thing. But then we've also all seen the Kevin Van Dams, the guy who drops a 6-pounder at the boat and looks at his bait real quick and then throws out there and starts casting within seconds, right? So there's always those different ways about going with it, and the experience of being that co-angler and watching these guys, these professional anglers up there. We have some of the best on the West Coast, and you're fishing with them, man. I mean, you've gotten to fish with some amazing fishermen, and that is a true testament to what co-angling can be. And we talked about it earlier, that there are guys out there who, and I'll drop a couple of them, Chuck Cavros and, Roydus Mangles. Those are guys who honestly don't have the ambition to go to the forward. They want to be co-anglers. They are in what I call a pro co. I mean, they are making their living out of the back of the boat, and they're most happy to do that. You are one of the guys who I think has been doing it right. I mean, you're coming up, you're learning as much as you possibly can, but at the same time, you have aspirations of being on the front of the boat. And for me, that's a great way to do it. I couldn't do it. I mean, I tried. I didn't have the right temperament. I'll be honest, it wasn't for me. I was, hey, it's a long swim home out of the back of your boat. But
That's right.
so it's one of those things. It's like, watching the way that you're doing this and seeing the lessons you're learning and talking about those, that's a great way. And I encourage people to definitely be a co. But I want to talk a little bit about the fishing side of it now. How do you feel it's made you a better fisherman by being that co-angler?
Well, being a co-angler, and this is totally my opinion on my experience, but man, it enhances your learning curve by leaps and bounds because
Mhm.
you're being in the know and you're right with the latest technology and you're getting to see all of these techniques by different guys that you're actually drawing and fishing with. And you know, when you're just an individual fisherman and you're not doing a co-angler format, or just say you're on the pro side of it, I mean, unless you're networking with a guy or something, there's a lot of techniques out there that you're just not aware of, or you get to them a little later and you miss the bus on some things. So when you're a co-angler, you really, in my opinion here, Big Ed, you become very versatile and you have so many tools in the bag that you just wouldn't have had off the rip if you didn't go that route. I think you could possibly get them, but I think it would take time to get as many as you would get as a co-angler in a short period of time, for sure.
Hmm. Has there been anybody that really stood out in your mind as that one pro that really, I guess the best way is just to say he was the person or she was the person. I don't want to alienate anybody, but that
Right, right.
one person that really um said to you, just by watching them fish, that, hey, you know what, I can do this, and I'm getting a lot of confidence. That one, I guess, mentor kind of an angler out there. Do you have one of those that you've been doing this a while now, so you've fished with a lot of
I
different
do.
people? Is there that guy out there for you?
There is. There's two guys that I have to pay homage to here, and the first guy is Ed Artledge, and I'm not familiar if you know who Ed is, but by the masses, we all know Ed, aka Iron Man. He's one of the last guys in his 80s fishing with us
Wow.
competitively, and yeah, yeah, it's amazing. And I drew Ed
Mhm.
in my early part of co-angling, and it was a great experience. It was a great experience, and we drew each other at Havasu, and the day was over. And I lost my jersey. I
Oh,
didn't know
wow.
where it was, and I did a phone call a month later. Hey, I have your jersey. I found it in the street,
Oh,
and
wow.
so we met at the. Yeah, it was a cool experience, man. We
Wow.
met at the next event, and he offered to, allow me to practice with him and
Hmm.
travel with him. And I owe a lot to Ed. He really was pivotal in my learning, and also being able to have as many experiences that I had in the beginning of my co-angling. He allowed and helped me have some of those experiences, and I owe a lot to him. He showed me the game. Uh, as far as dude, when you're co-angling, you think things are just you know textbook, but if you're not in the fishing community and you come in, it's really intimidating, and you don't know the format of getting hotels and be preparation, and he taught me, he gave me a template on all of that, and just taught me the game of fishing. And slowly but surely, Ed helped me definitely get my first top 10, and I'm very grateful for him in that. And then on the later part of my co-angling, which is now, Greg Gutierrez,
Hmm.
um, another friend. I can even call him one of my best friends. Um, he's helped me immensely, and he's very hard on me, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I would not have it any other way, man. He's really he's really tuning me up for and getting me prepared if I choose, which I will at some point, the next level, because it's a different ball game.
You do
So
you do
I
realize
owe
that you
both of them.
you do realize that if Greg is hard on you, just because he loves you, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's
Yeah.
how he is,
Absolutely.
right? um,
That's right, brother. That's right.
Tell a new fish story with Garmin EchoMap Ultra 2 chart plotters in 10 and 12-inch models featuring traditional clear view, side view sonar. Heard about Garmin's live scope, live scanning sonar? EchoMap Ultra 2 is compatible with that also. You can even capture your favorite and best fish catches with the new screen recording feature. What more could you want? How about built-in Garmin Navionics, inland and coastal mapping? Wireless networking? Check and check. EchoMap Ultra 2. Check it out at garmin.com or shop your local Garmin dealer. Yeah, I mean, and those are, I don't know Ed personally, but I know Greg personally, and I can say those are two very good guys, just by hearing what you've talked about with Ed, and knowing Greg the way I do. That's a great way, learning. And I think one of the things you said in there was, you learn the game of fishing off the water in this industry can be just as important as on the water. I mean, you have to go out and you have to perform and you have to do well, but your attitude, the way you address the public, the way you are out there showing things off, and the simple things, making sure you get the right rooms, making sure you have the right, all that stuff you learn from that guy. And, that is the important part right there. That is another important part of this. This is you have to be so well-rounded before you start this venture. And it sounds to me like being a co-angler, you've really learned how to be the most well-rounded you can be.
Yeah, man. I love it, man. Co-angling this is opinion again, but it's an art. It's an art. It's an art to be consistent. And when you see guys and gals that are very consistent, you know what it takes when you've had a little bit yourself, and you tip your hat off to them because you're getting a different pro every day.
Right.
So you really have to be versatile to be consistent, because every angler you draw may not be on the same presentation, the same bite. So if you don't have many tools in the bag, the adjustments just might be a little difficult. So yeah, dude, I love it, man. But my goal at the end of the day is to use this and to move on and learn the next part of the game. And co-angling, definitely, there's levels to this, and this is one of the levels that I believe is important to have if you're trying to move up. I know some guys that talk to me in confidence, and I won't say names, but they wish they would have stayed a co-angler a little bit sooner. They've told me that.
Yeah.
They said they thought that they could just move up, and certain guys make it look easy, but it's not easy. So they really wish that they had stayed on the format just a little bit longer, because there was things that they left behind that they needed. So when you have a pro come tell you that, it makes you know that you're possibly looking at things the right way, and it's different for everybody too, Ed, right? Everybody moves at a different speed, and everybody's skill set and financial, stability is
of
different.
course.
So
yeah, of course. That part of it. When I talk to a lot of the different pro anglers out there, they always talk about camaraderie. They talk about how basically this is like a family. Is it is it a is it the same way on the co-side? Is there a division of like, hey, I got a bunch of co-anglers that I, consistently fish with, or that I consistently am around, and then it's a separation between the pros and the co's? Or is it like just the entire industry itself is more like a family when you're on a tour? Like you're on BAM Trail now, and it's like, is that like the BAM Trail guys that you're fishing with, there's a family there? Or is it more like the co-anglers kind of stay with the co-anglers, the pros stay with the pros? Not as a bad thing, just as that's the way it kind of flows. Is that how it is out there?
That's a great question. I would probably say in my early tenure of starting as a co-angler, it was probably more like that. I mean, when I started, it was 200, pros, 200 co's.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I was blessed to see those days, and the interaction was different. You know, there was a little bit of a separation and disconnect. That's a lot of people.
Right.
So as the numbers have, I guess, lessened, I see more of a mingling of both. You don't see that separation anymore, and um, there's quite a few co's that's been in the game for a long time, like myself, and even longer. And you
Right.
start to gain these relationships with pros, and it's just a mixture. And even more now, I'll say the pros, they help the co's out a lot more than they did back then. Information and helping them out it's way more seen, now than it was back then. So I would have to say, I think it's not clicky, and the codes aren't by codes, and the pros aren't just hanging with the pros, but there is a mixture there. And if you're new to the sport and don't know anyone, then you
Yeah.
might see that. But to the
Yeah.
masses, to the masses though, everyone knows everyone. You draw everyone. If you've done this long enough, you end up drawing
Right.
just about every pro out there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you end up it's a big family at the end of the day.
Well, that'll be another question I ask you. But right now, where I was kind of leading with that too is how do people have asked, and I know people have asked you, how do you do it? How do you go out there and be that co-angler all the time? And this is kind of your window to talk about that. And how do you
Mhm.
address a day when you go out there and you have to deal with, I mean, I'm not saying that these guys have egos, but we all have egos. When we're on the front of the boat, we're spending a lot of money, we're gambling a lot of money to go out there and fish, but we're
Mhm.
still humans, so we have to respect the person in the back of the boat as long as they kind of respect us, right? So how is it
That's
that
right.
you go out there and deal with guys that are they're out there to win? I mean, there's some big name guys on this tour, and they're out there to win. They're not out there to play a game. They're not out there to just have a good old day out there on the water. How do you go out and address that?
Well, first, what I like to do is with every pro that I get with, I call them the night before, and I'll ask within respect, so I'm prepared. Hey, how are you fishing? Are you fishing fast or fishing slow? When I do that, I never pry. I never want them to feel like they have to give up anything, or they have to feel uncomfortable the next day, or their information is going to go anywhere after that phone call. So I just need to know how I need to set up, and then that's it. So that's the first thing that I like to do. It sets the tone for me on knowing what baits, what rods that I'll be bringing, and I can start my visualization process there. Then in the morning, I always offer coffee to every pro.
Hmm.
Well, I've only had one take me up on it. So yeah, yeah, they don't want to use the bathroom right away. I did it. So, but anyhow, but it's just it's just being nice, and you do want to establish a genuine relationship as early as you can, whatever that relationship may be. Obviously, it's fishing, but you want to get out there and you want to have a good day to where you two feel like, the best days are when you felt like that guy in the front, it was a team tournament. You both got him. Or he got him good and you're congratulating him, and you getting him and he's congratulating you, and it doesn't go like that all the time, by the way. But that's what you want. Yeah, that's kind of what you want to shoot for. And I'm always there for my pros. So the one thing about me, I'm competing, but I'm there for them. And there's not too many that can say that. I mean, when it's time for the net, I'm there. I'll stop fishing. I'll help them call. Not help them call physically, but they need a live well open or me to stand there so their fish don't jump out. I'll do whatever it takes to get them back in the game, to get me back in the game, because I can't move as fast as my pro. So these are
Hmm.
little things that I've learned that helps me, but inadvertently, I'm showing professional characteristics to my pro. And then, most of the time, these pros, when they get what they need, or things are going good and there's a fish that they don't need and you're struggling, they'll be more apt to help you out because you've been, it's been good in the boat, a good aura, and you've been helping them. It's a two-way street to some degree. Some guys don't want the help, which I did.
Mm.
Some guys, hey, I can net my own fish. I appreciate it. Thank you. And when you get those, it's great. Doesn't mean it's bad aura. It just means, all right, dude, I can tend to my job. And he's cool with that, and that's fine. So I like to do that. That kind of works for me, because at the end of the day, when I get out of the boat, I want to have a good time, whether I caught him or I didn't. I want to be able to have had a great day with the guy that I drew, learn a little bit about him or not, and him learn a little bit about me or not. Like I said, some guys don't like to conversate, which is good. Sometimes I don't either, especially if I'm not catching them. So, yeah. So, that's what works for me.
What is the you've been doing this a while, and I keep reiterating that because this is a guy who I don't want people to think it's like, oh, he became a co-angler a year ago. This guy's been doing this for a little bit. Rodney, Dante's been out there, and there's a professionalism to being that co, and that's why I basically talked about it this way. What is it that you do? Let's say you draw a guy like Greg, you get a Greg Gutierrez. This guy is an absolute vacuum cleaner, man. You're lucky to catch a fish behind him. And when you do, it's an amazing thing. He's a heck of a fisherman. He covers a lot of water, and it's tough to catch fish behind him. What's that technique? What's that style? What's that way? How do you focus on catching fish when that happens? If you get somebody like that?
Man, that's a tough one. It's tough because that's really tough, man. I've had that before. I've had the Gregs. I've drawn Greg twice. I'll just go down a couple. Robert Lee, Mike Folkstad, Paul Bailey. I'm brain farting here, but I could Joe Uribe. I could go down the list with these, and I'm missing people here. But I'm going, accomplished fisherman, and it's tough. The only thing that I can say is you have to be observant. And, for me, I'm trying to catch a different fish. I just have to figure out what fish they're not fishing for. I don't want to be throwing for the same fish, because to do the same things behind these guys, I've just never won the game that way, and I do really bad. They're very thorough, and they're very, very thorough. They leave nothing behind. So, there's a reason why some of them are nicknamed Kirby. Yeah. So, you have to figure out a different way to catch them. And, if they're being aggressive, then maybe you go non-aggressive. Maybe you throw the drop shot. If they're throwing a jig, throw a drop shot, or you have to be really creative and understand what they're giving you. And hopefully you have those tools. You've developed those tools to be confident to use to capitalize on those moments. But it's tough fishing behind made guys like that. And, I've done it. I've caught one fish, two fish. I've blanked. I drew Jeff Michaels one year, and I blanked.
Yeah.
And it was nothing that he was doing wrong. He's doing his job, right? These pros, man, their job is to catch fish.
Right.
That's their job. So, it's nothing that those are the humbling moments that take me back to the drawing board to get better. I'm like, dude, there was something I could have done. I didn't overcome that obstacle. And on to day two, on to the next. So it's really tough to fish behind those guys, but there is a way. It's just knowing how to do it and figuring out within 8 hours what they're leaving you and if you can capitalize on it, because they're pretty thorough. And that's not to, discourage anyone, because there's times where they will help you if they can. And, there's times where they're around so many fish that no matter how thorough they are, you're still going to catch them. So there's different scenarios, but overall, when you have these guys in front of you, it's quite a challenge to catch 5 fish.
Well, and and I don't want to say that I'm throwing Mike, Jeff out there on the bus here, but how do you, it's just, he was the last name you mentioned, but how do you
Right.
address if you feel like, because I feel like this is the one um aspect that most people think about when they think about being a co. Well, I'm going to get back seated. Um, and if you go out in a day and you don't catch a fish or you have a bet, do you ever just feel like, oh, I got back seated today or something like that? And is it a real thing out there that guys do it, or is it something that you as a co-angler kind of allow to happen because you didn't, like you just said, you didn't know how to make the adjustments to catch the fish they weren't? Which one is it really? Is it, or is it a little of both?
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the Band Pod tonight. I hope you're enjoying the show. But right now, we're going to take a commercial break and talk to you a little bit about Excel Marketing LLC. They're your local TV expert, and they have something to tell you about Dish TV. If technology, value, and customer satisfaction are important to you, then it's time to cut the cable cord once and for all. Upgrade your TV experience and start saving with Dish today. Call Excel Marketing LLC at 209-542-4129 or visit them on the web at excel.getdish.com. They're Excel Marketing LLC, your locally owned, operated, and trusted satellite TV experts. Now, back to the Band Pod.
I think it's a little bit of both. So,
Okay.
the reason that I mentioned the situation with Jeff, because I've been behind guys a lot that I didn't catch many fish, but
Right.
he's the only one that I never caught a fish. I was able to catch one or two, but I
Right.
blanked with him. That was the most memorable because I was sitting in the top 10.
Mm.
So it meant something for me to catch fish. So I will never forget that. And it was on the Delta, which, depending on how a pro has to catch his fish,
Right.
it can actually be it can be difficult. So I would say, as a co-angler, there's another side to this where you have to be open-minded and know that you're there to learn, even though you're there to compete. And these pros may have to catch their fish in some ways that just may impede you catching them. But when those moments are happening, what I do is I take them. Those moments I take as builders. So it's building something within me. I still have to figure this out, keep my cool, and still be happy and enjoy what I'm doing. And sometimes that's tough when the guy in front is just roping them, right? I mean, and you look at the
Yeah.
clock, and the clock is ticking, and his live well is dark, and yours is still light. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I better do something here, right? But you
Right.
have to understand. You have to understand that that's how they have to catch their fish, and that's just how it is. And like I said, most of the time these guys will help you, but when that's taking place, you need to be learning. You got to take something away from that. You just can't make it completely a negative experience, because there's some positive things happening in front of your eyes. It's negative to you because you're not on the positive end. So you
Right.
can always learn something. I learned a ton from Jeff that day. So even though I didn't win in the boat, I won later on with pre-existing tournaments. So it's just it's all a mindset. When you, as a
Right.
co-angler, what mindset you have coming into it is going to help you deal with these things a little bit easier than having a negative mindset. So always be positive and just try to take something away from every experience and make it positive, because you're not going to catch them all the time. You're thinking you can catch fish behind every pro, but it's just really not a realistic. It's not a realistic thing, man.
Right.
So just stay positive and take something from it. But I think it's a little bit of both, to answer your question.
Okay. Well, and that kind of leads me to my next question, which was, you've seen both formats that I'm gonna ask you about. Draw formats where it's you against all the other co-anglers and nothing else, which is non-shared weight, and the shared weight program. Um, I've always stood on the grounds of non-shared weight. I love fishing against the other anglers that my money's in the pot with those guys. They have to catch fish. They have to beat me. I have to beat them. The pros have to beat their competition. And I've always loved that way. It is a little tougher to fish that way, I feel like, because that angler in front of you has no incentive to ever let you catch fish, really.
Hmm.
It becomes your job to catch fish, which I believe is your job anyways. So which format do side with? Which one is your favorite?
I would have to say my favorite format would be pro-am non-shared.
Okay.
Um, but I really enjoy the shared format. I
Yeah,
really do. And it's for two different reasons. So
right?
my favorite for you're competing at both. I don't want to contradict myself here, but
Right.
to me there's a difference on why I love one and I like one. With the shared, you really get to meet guys at a different speed. They're more
Hmm.
mellow. You really get to understand and pick their brains, and they're more willing to give you things under a different pressure than it would be in a pro-am situation. There's a true team camaraderie feeling there, and you start to make it like now that right there is more of a family atmosphere, more than a
Right.
pro-am to me. You know,
Okay.
it's a pretty cool deal. It's a pretty cool deal having shared weights. So I love the pro-ams, but I like the shared. I just
Yeah.
if I'm competing, if I'm going for a goal, which is like AOI,
Hmm.
or I'm trying to win a tournament, I'm more geared for pro-am because I just feel like there's more things that I can control, and no one can beat me without catching a fish.
Right.
So so I'd rather just do the pro-ams, but share weight. I know what I'm getting when I sign up for it, and my mind's in a total different place. So I'm fishing hard, and of course I'm fishing to win in top 10. But having three different pros, 3 different days, it really changes everything up, and it's pretty cool. But it's just as an am, there's a lot less you can control.
Right. And that was basically my point on that was just, you've seen them both now. You've fished with a lot of guys. You're trying to move to the front of the boat, and it'll lead me down the next path that I kind of want to take with you, and that is going to the front of the boat um a year ago, 2 years ago. Going to the front of the boat, you were going to fish local events around here that really didn't have an impact on your life. You're a business owner, I'm a business owner. We are doing things out there to make money, and our goal is to be in the industry of fishing. And when I hear that and when I heard you talk about it, one of the things that really like made your eyes light up a little bit, you talked a little bit more about it, like you got excited about it, was this new Super 60 format coming out next year. And if you're going to be at the front of the boat and you want to fish at the front of that boat and you want to make that Super 60, you have to um, do nothing anymore. You don't have to travel 3,000 miles to do it. You can now make a living. Now, I'm not saying you still have to win. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's $50,000, and
Hmm.
that's for some people that's a great live. That's a year's salary for some people. And
Hmm.
if you're a guy like Colby Pearson, you're going, dang it, where was this? Guy who comes in and wins two in a
Right.
row. It's like he'd have been sitting on 100 grand right now without any issues. But you know, he's feeling a little slighted, but it is what it is. And you come to this next year, but all of a sudden it's like having a place to go, right? The yellow brick road just became a lot shorter. To get to Oz, you don't
Right.
have to be across the country. You can be right here in your own backyard. Now you're in Nevada, so you still got to travel no matter what what has this done for you as far as, hey, here's a dream that just became so much closer of a reality? Is that how you look at it?
Yes, I do. I have to tell you, I was pretty excited. I'm working the other day, and I work out of reception quite often, and the reception comes on, and bam, there, the everything was on Facebook, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, am I really reading what I'm reading right now? So I had to call several guys to make sure that I was reading it correctly because, you know, I just wanted to make sure before I really got excited. And what I read was cool. It was exactly what I thought. And I have to say, it reignited the fire in me because let's face it, with inflation,
Oh,
I just feel like it's harder to make it um, with inflation, and it's harder to make it now than it was 15 years ago as far as being
right,
able to travel from east to west without proper support.
right.
um and it's a dream, and I'm a big believer that anything is possible. So I'm always on that. Anything is possible. So when I hear this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can stay out west, I can keep the sponsors I have and actually gain more support because it's regional, and do it on lakes that I already know and I'm comfortable with. I'm not having to go and have a 2-year reset and get my teeth kicked in every now and then or every tournament until I learn what's going on. I just, it's a beautiful thing, and I am so excited to get behind this in any way possible because this is a great thing for the West. And if there's guys out there that I know that have ambitions like myself, you can't help but be excited about the Super 60 and the opportunity to fish this against some of the greats that the West have to offer.
Yeah, and
Sure.
this is going to, in my opinion, looking at this is also going to create some better, some more anglers are going to rise to the top. You got guys that are already known out there. You got guys like Luke Johns. You got a Colby Pearson's out there. You've got some of these young guys coming up. I mean, I just interviewed the last winner of the event up at Boardman, Oregon on the Columbia River, and Demekus is, I nicknamed him the quiet assassin. This guy has been making top tens, wins a tournament. He
Mm-hmm.
won another tournament down on the Delta, a Toyota Series down there. This guy is just quietly, decimating the West Coast. I mean, he is out there doing it, and I think he's a big name to come up in the future. Uh, and I expressed this to you earlier. I would love to try to figure out a way to make most of these anglers, yourself and everybody else, household names. We know the Mahomes and the Kelseys and the Montanas from back in the day and all these big football names, baseball names, they're all household names because people know the sports. Well, we're in a really good sport. We're in a sport that's so different than those ones in so many ways, but our anglers are so much more approachable. They're such better people. They're nicer. I just want to say so much about this sport. I love this sport. So that's where I want to go about learning a way to make everybody a household name, so that you can not only make that, but your sponsors see the worth that you have. You mentioned sponsors in there. And if you're driving 3,000 miles away and you're living in Fernley, Nevada, your sponsors really don't get anything out of that. But if you're right here, and you're in the West Coast, you're in Northern California, you're in Yuma, Arizona, you're in, Washington, Idaho, your base of sponsorship gets seen by people that can actually reach out to them and use them. And I think that is such an amazing thing that's going on, a part of this. And, for you to say that just in general, your sponsors all of a sudden get a value because you're here. That is a really important point. Um, I do want to say this, Dante is, he mentioned some things beforehand, and and I'm one of those. I'd love to bring this stuff up because you can sit here on this show, you can listen to these guys and what they're saying and the things they talk about, and it's like, yeah, but he's just some guy. Let me tell you, Dante is not just some guy. He's in Nevada, so take it for what it is. But he already owns two state records there, one for a spotted bass and the other one for, and I'm not even sure what this is, but it's a pumpkin seed, and I don't know if that's like something that grows pumpkins or some kind of fish. You
Yeah,
know, and he
it's
owns
definitely.
seven water records, which in here it would mean like a lake record, but out there in Nevada they call them water records, and that's because there's no water in Nevada. But other than that, I mean, he owns these records out there. This is a heck of an angler. I mean, he's not somebody who is, when you're listening to this guy talk, you're not listening to a nobody. You're listening to somebody who's devoted his life to fishing and is truly after it out there. Go ahead and explain what a pumpkin seed is now.
We're going to take a short commercial break and talk to you about one of our great sponsors, StoreQuest Self Storage. They're here to help you get your garage back. As an outdoor enthusiast, you have gear, lots of expensive gear, equipment, boats, trailers, and vehicles, probably all stored in your garage. You need a storage space that's easy to access, secure, and climate controlled. And that's where StoreQuest comes in. Head over to storequest.com. Plus, members receive an exclusive 10% discount with the offer code BAM10. That's BAM 10. StoreQuest is the official self-storage partner of the BAM Tournament Trail. Discover Plumas County, where adventure meets tranquility. Nestled in the heart of nature, Plumas County offers endless activities for everyone. Dive into the clear waters of Lake Almanor for wakeboarding thrills and fishing excitement. Whether you're an adrenaline junkie or a fishing enthusiast, Lake Almanor has something for you. Stroll through charming local boutiques and indulge in fine dining experiences that will tantalize your taste buds. From unique shops and gourmet restaurants, Plumas County is a haven for those who love to explore and savor. Immerse yourself in lush forests of pine and fir trees, perfect for camping, hiking, and biking. And don't miss the breathtaking Lassen Volcanic National Park, where you can witness the power and beauty of nature up close. Footloose in Plumas County, your ultimate escape for adventure, relaxation, and unforgettable memories. Visit Plumas County today.
I'm sorry about that, bud. It's the pumpkin seed. It's in the sunfish family. It's in the sunfish family. It's very very similar, if you've never seen them, to a bluegill look, but their mating colors, they're beautiful. I mean, they really are beautiful, and I got lucky. This is one of those lucky ones because I wasn't targeting them at all. I was there for
Huh.
bass, but I would catch these huge pumpkin seeds, throw in the top water. They would eat it. And I would just take them like, man, this is beautiful. And I throw them back. And I kept throwing them back. And I did some research and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute here. Those are pumpkin seeds. I'm like, some of those were really close to the world record. That's no exaggerations. I
Wow.
have pictures. So I said, the next time I go back, I'm targeting them. And I went back several times and it didn't happen. So the very next year in August, I put it together. That's when I was catching them. It's like mating time for them, or they have their mating colors. I believe they were mating. And I caught one. And it wasn't as big as the biggest, but I'm like, all right. So I did the research and I called Department of Wildlife and they came and did all the deal. And sure, it was a state record. There is very few places here in
Wow.
Nevada that actually even have them. So so it was really cool for them to get that type of information, and it was cool for me too. That was my first state record, and I was pretty proud of that. It was a cool moment.
Yeah, I mean but the whole, the point of that is that you're still out there fishing, man. That's, everybody can be whatever they want to be when you like you said, the dreams come true. You can do what you want to do, and if you've got the water out there and you do the research on it, and you go out and you're just like, hey, I'm just gonna go fish and catch some fish. Hey, it's pretty, hey, it's awesome to look up there and go, yeah, I got a state record for a pumpkin seed. I got a state record for a spotted bass, right? That's your other one of your
Right.
other that's your other state record for what was it, you said a 4.6, right? A 4.6 ounce pound,
Yeah.
4 pound,
4.6
6 ounce,
pounds.
yeah, spotted bass, which is
Four.
a big spotted bass for a lot of places.
It
Um,
is. It is, especially for the desert here.
yeah.
And they had only been here maybe 8 years.
Yeah,
So,
that's
they were
impressive.
on their way. That is impressive. It was really impressive, man. What a lot of people don't know is we have one of the best trout stocking programs in the state. So, so these fish, the bass here that are in these impoundments or reservoirs, they actually are sleepers. They're giants when you can connect with them. I mean, big ones, man, for northerns and smallmouth. So it was
Wow.
on its way, and we lost that pond to golden algae, and it just never recovered. So as of right now, there's one body of water left in the state of Nevada with spotted bass, and the population there really isn't that big. So
Wow.
I'm glad I had an opportunity to get in the books while they were here.
That's interesting to hear. That they're they're
Uh,
they're on their way out, honestly. They're usually a fish that takes over a lake and dominates rather than fades away. That's interesting. And like you said, you have 7 other lake records basically that you have in your possession, which is is
mhm.
is there are some really good anglers. Let's not say this, that there are some really good anglers that live in Nevada and fish in Nevada, bass anglers. And there's some good bodies of water up there. And to be, a guy who's out there and holding this kind of record and doing that sort of thing, you're showing that you are a very skilled angler, and the what you talk about has some weight with it. But let's ask you this then. What's your favorite way to fish? What is Dante Ray's? I'm going out. I got one rod. I'm going out fishing today. What is it you're doing, man?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one, man. That's really tough. So, 10 years ago, I could have probably just blah, just gave you something off the tip of my tongue. But, these days, Ed, I'm really programmed to fishing the conditions.
Right?
So I can tell you an array of techniques and rods that I would tie up to go out with, but I really don't know what I'm going to throw until I get out there and you're idling or you're on the bank or something gives you a clue to go one direction. I like them all, man. I have certain bites where I really enjoy. I guess I'll say this: the one rod that I do have most of the time, and I fish everywhere. And this isn't a plug by no means, but it is reality. It's the
Yeah.
frenzy based nail, and that right there will always be in my one or two punch when I'm starting anywhere.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's on, sometimes it's not, but you can be guaranteed that that's probably what I'm going to be throwing more than anything to start with, because I'm pretty versatile and I start out with different things, but the nail is always on my deck at every tournament that we have in California, from the Delta
Hmm.
to the spotted bass fisheries. It doesn't matter. It's it's a game changer, as they say, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think and it really bodes to how deep in this sport Greg Gutierrez actually is, and you mentioned it before, and I not a cheesy plug or anything like that, but to say, I mean, this is
Right.
his bait, this is his design, this is something he spent a lot of time on, a lot of effort on. It's very versatile, and to go out there, but to say, I've heard it more than once, that's one of the baits that people throw, and it's not a bait itself. It is just it's a head, it's a weighted head with a hook, and
Mhm.
it's not the bait itself. There's a bait you put on it, but the way that it fishes and the way that allows you to fish and the work that he's done to make it so popular is just absolutely a testament to what that guy loves when it comes to fishing, and how much it is such a integral part of, I will almost guarantee that 90, if not 100% of every angler out there on the West Coast has at least one package of those in his boat at any one time, if not more, like 20 packages.
I probably agree. I probably agree with you on that. There's a couple guys that are still a little stubborn on it, but
Yeah.
I probably will agree with you on that for sure. Even if you don't like the spinning rod game, I'm sure you have at least a pack. You have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah,
You
there's
just have
some
to. You just
Yeah, there's just I love that bait. I love using that thing. I've used it for all kinds of different baits. And yeah, but we talked a little bit about where you're going and how you want to get there, the way to fish out of the back of a boat, how to have that attitude, how to have that temperament, how to have the fishing how to address anglers. But in the end result, this is about Dante Ray, and we've got about 10 minutes left of this show. And Dante, I want to open it up right now and just let you tell everybody a little bit about who you are, where they can find you, how to, follow your stuff, how to, get on Dante Ray's bandwagon, man. And it's yours. Open it up. Let's hear it.
Well, a little bit about me is I'm a fisherman just like you guys. I'm just a co-angler, but I'm a fisherman, and that's the most important thing. And my aspirations are to be a full-time professional. That's why I started this co-angler journey, and I knew when I started that I was behind. I didn't. I've been fishing as a kid. My dad had me out there at the age of 4, but we were a multi-species family. I grew up catching crappie, bass, smallmouth on the Great Lakes, bluegill. It was always Fish Friday, Catfish Fridays, which really had me going for my family. So, yeah. And so when I moved out west and, was able to really just target bass and learn about them, I knew I was behind. And it's been a great ride. And I love to fish. And yeah, you can definitely find me on Dante Ray Fishing on Facebook, and on Instagram it's Bass Pro 22. And my email is danteray22@gmail.com. You have any questions? You ever want to come to Nevada and fish? Need some directions, or you want to know anything about the sponsors that I represent, which is iRods, Buck and Bass, Frenzy Baits, Pro Point Lures, Wellsco, please reach out. I would love to inform you on what they have and give you more details if that's something you want to know. But this is me, and my journey is to be a full-time pro. And BAM, I have to say, you guys are definitely, speaking for myself, you're bringing some things to reality, and I'm pretty excited about the future for the West Coast and the opportunities that lie ahead, for sure.
Awesome. And that's I'm gonna ask one last question, because I know that I've got this quite a bit, and we get these asked to us all the time. Come on. Oh my. There we go. Sorry, microphone died on me. We get this question all the time, and you're definitely the person to ask it of. You're coming, you came into this sport, you just mentioned some of your sponsors. What do you tell a young guy coming into this sport, how they go about getting sponsors and getting in the right place in this sport? Maybe I should ask this a little earlier, but you know what? It's the end of the show, and it was sitting down here in my notes, and I forgot to ask it to you, but I did want to ask you. You've got some big names there, some good names there, solid companies. How do you go about getting sponsors when you're coming into this sport from nowhere?
Great question. If I had to give any advice looking back on my journey up to now and how I did things, because I didn't do things correctly the whole time. I've had my mistakes that I had to learn from. No, really. And I embrace those mistakes because they've made me who I am today. And I'm a better fisherman and better person because those things happen. So I would probably say, number one, network. Networking is really important. It's one of the reasons why MLF was really good to me, or FLW. That's where I cut my teeth. I jumped into the big leagues being a babe in a pool of sharks. And but making the championships, going back east, getting that simulation of being a pro and the traveling and networking with those guys, you start doing that and people remember you, and you get a little bit of validity on certain things. And it's such a small group, even though our industry, a lot of fishermen are out here. It's such a small knit group that guys in the industry know each other. So if you establish credibility, you network. um, I would say just don't work on the fishing. That was my mistake. I was focused on being the best fisherman that I could be, and I neglected the business side of it because there's two sides. And the business side, in my opinion, now I would say would get you further than being a great fisherman. I think it's great to have both, but I think learn both and don't just focus on one. Learn both. I would actually say learn more business because the fishing will come if you just keep doing it as a co-angler, and or just don't co-angler, but you got to put the work in away from tournaments as well. There's something to be said for that too. So I would just say learn those things, and then I believe you will become more attractive to sponsors. You also have to do the social media thing. You have to be on. It's there's some things you have to do, but networking and learning the business side and the performance on the fishing side, you'll gain followers. Those followers in turn become attractive to sponsors, and that, in my opinion, allows you to get those opportunities, or they become available. And then every opportunity you get, take it and learn from it. There's going to be a lot of no's, and the no's are fine. I would say be ready for the no's. The no's will get you to the yeses. They build up character for the yes, and you just have to go back to the drawing board and just keep at it. Believe in yourself and just keep at it. And someone will see value in you and give you a chance. And when they give you that chance, make sure you make the best of it. Service the contract to that sponsor that is being asked of you, and I think you'll do okay. I really do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you anymore in that sense that I believe that's one of the things that some of our younger anglers coming up really have lacked. And I've dealt with some very, very professional guys, and I feel like basically just coming back from ICAST, dealing with those anglers at that top level when, it's like, hey, we'd like to do an interview with you. And they've done 800,000 interviews and it's the last day, and everyone to the letter came up and was like, absolutely, let's talk, let's do this thing, let's talk about it, let's go over it, because they know what they're there for, and that's them filling exactly what you just said, filling that contract, understanding that companies are spending marketing dollars for you to market, for you to be that person. And I think everything you just said right there is so poignant in yes, the fishing is important. Yes, being a superstar is important, but you're never going to be that superstar if you can't also be up in front of people talking. If you can't stand somewhere and have a speech and know what you're going to say and do a seminar or that sort of thing, you're not gonna that value is not going to be shown. So like you just said, show the value will be there as long as you create it. So great words, man. Great words. And yeah, this was a good show. And everybody, this is we got to sign off now, but hey, Dante, thanks for coming on and doing this, man. I really appreciate you taking your time and doing this for us. I know it took us a little bit to get it all together, but hey, it was good. It's what I think people want to know about being a co-angler and why it's important to do it. And you covered a lot of that, and the way you approach it and the way that you are a professional to your pros that are up there. It shows a lot, man, a lot of character. So Thanks again, man. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity, man. Thank you.
No, so everybody, thanks for tuning in. We, this is a great show here. Again, I'll always say this: if you didn't get it the first time, go back and listen because man, there was a lot of information in there, and Dante's gave out a lot of good stuff. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you on the next episode. In 2 weeks, we'll have another great angler just like Dante. So, thanks for tuning in.